Antoine Semenyo has been a massive subject for Liverpool over the past few weeks, but Semenyo in particular is of interest to Liverpool for a number of reasons and has been arguably for some time, not only for the old stats team, but also the incoming guys of Richard Hughes and those kind of people. People who, first of all, know what they're talking about, but secondly, have seen the player up close, knew why they got him into Bournemouth, and knew what would also get him away from Bournemouth, what his plan is, what his long term is, and also the financials behind some of that. Those previous links that Richard Hughes have might help Liverpool. We don't know that for sure. We're not 100% on that, but we also know that there will be a bit of a race for him. We know from Fabrizio Romano and also people like David Ornstein that there is a want for the player to leave in January or later in the year. Now, what's interesting about this is Semeno is obviously a fantastic player in great form right now, but there is clearly a step up for him to take. There are times where he feels a little patchy, and obviously he is a big part of that front line, but also it's coming towards the end of his career at Bournemouth, or at least it feels that way. It doesn't feel like he's agitating for a new contract. It feels like he's actually trying to get a move away, or that the club want to maximize the value. They are already putting the figures out there, the release clauses, all these kind of things, the things that you seed into the media when you want people to know this guy's available. And I don't hate that. I don't necessarily think it's the player. I think the club probably want to get their maximum value too. And I think different clubs, some selling clubs, some more powerful clubs, do this in different ways. Sometimes it is down to, we don't want to sell, we won't let him leave. Other clubs are sort of like, we accept what the future of the player is. And essentially, we just want to maximize that value. If you reach that value, we'll go with it. Dortmund do it regularly. Bournemouth have obviously been known to do it with Kirkes, Huijsen, and a couple of other people who've left more recently. And of course, Liverpool are interested. What does this mean for the club? Because, I think Semenyo is a fantastic player. He will also be away, he will also be away for African Cup of Nations year in, year out, but not this one. I don't think Ghana qualified for this one. But Mo Salah's Egypt did. Interestingly, he fits a lot of profiles that not only suit Liverpool now, but also suit the previous era in Klopp. And so a lot of people, weirdly, feel way more comfortable with signing a Semenyo because he fits profiles that we've seen be successful in recent years than maybe even Alexander Isak or Ekitike or even Florian Wirtz, people who are going to be shape changers and shape shifters for Liverpool, but ultimately don't fit into the Klopp model of a modern day player that Liverpool would have signed. They fit into the Edwards and probably the Hughes model, but not so much, I'd imagine, the Klopp level, even though Klopp probably would have maximized Ekitike, maximized Isak. You get what I'm saying? That front line was Mane, Salah, Firmino, and, very rarely did we try to break that. And when we did break that, we didn't particularly enjoy the journey away from that era, especially with Nunez. I think Diaz was very good, but we never quite got the maximum out of him. And you could see Slot loved playing him, and he was a very smart player. And, there are times now where people are questioning whether he really wanted to leave the club, but he wanted to leave. And whether Liverpool and Slot wanted him to leave is a different thing. But Liverpool maximised the value they got there. And that is where we will now see Liverpool moving into this new era with Semenyo. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, I think there are a lot of people saying it means the end for any other winger at the club. Rion Gamoa, Gakpo, Salah, what does it mean for Chiesa? I think it certainly means that in that front line, we will have to move on one of our more significant attackers. I think most people know what my conclusion is as to who that attacker is. I think most people know, is Mo Salah. Age, not necessarily form, because I think actually he's very significant to this team, but age, fit into the next formation and shape that we want to play. But also, just overall, upgrading an older player that you can sell for a large amount of money. Would Liverpool take 100 million if he was going to Saudi? Would we swap him out for Semenyo? Is Semenyo like for like? No. But does he, are we looking for someone to come in and be Mo Salah? Or are we looking for someone to come in and take another space in that front line and essentially take Mo Salah's role out of the team relatively? You still need someone on the right wing, but out of the team and into the new shape that we need. Now, that would mean Salah possibly going. Salah would definitely leave for an equivalent or higher value. And then bringing in Semenyo, which would mean competition with Cody Gakpo, which would mean competition for Rio and Gamoa, which would mean competition for Chiesa. I think Semenyo would not be brought in as competition for Ekitike or for Isak. I think those two can play as a two, but I also think they can be rotatable. There's 60 games in a season if you want to be a competitive side. I think most people know Ekitike, fantastic player, should be playing very regularly for Liverpool and probably would play even as a sub or even as a starter. But it's worth keeping those minutes in people's legs for when we actually need them. We saw a lot of people now talking about the fall off from the end of last season, how Liverpool have lost so many games since March as a percentage, how high that is, and a lot of them putting that exclusively down to Slot. Slot pushed for a title. Slot won a title, but he also pushed and won a title with players who were not only exhausted from the season they'd just been through, but exhausted from the season they'd had before that and before that and before that. And there were a lot of minutes in these guys' legs, whilst there were also a lot of levels of fatigue mentally, whilst also physically. And Liverpool are looking to build a squad that can rotate. We got taken apart a few weeks ago by Doku. I think Liverpool think of Semenyo as a creative, explosive, dangerous player who puts the opposition on the back foot, because that's what he is for Bournemouth. But what's interesting again is, and this is where I think I'd be interested to hear a lot of people's opinions on Semenyo, because I think he's great. I think he would become a Salah, Mane, Firmino level of player. What will he do against low blocks? What will he do against teams where it is a bit more frustrating, where they will kick you off the ball? Sure, he's ready for the step up to the Champions League, but how do you perform at your maximum? How do you stay at that Champions League level? We've had plenty of players who've come in and gone from, just slightly below Champions League or very top of the Champions League level to the top of it. Cody Gakpo was clearly a player of pedigree. Firmino, clearly a player of pedigree. Salah, all players who got European experience or whatever you want to say. But you get what I mean. What's interesting about this is Liverpool will be looking at the profile. They'll be looking at I don't know, how can I put it? They'll be looking at the idea that Salah and those guys are moving on, and what they need is value. And 65 million now seems like that level of value. Does that make sense? What I love about bringing in Semenyo, bringing in whoever else is, we've got a guy who we know is proven in the Premier League. We know there is an interest from Liverpool, but we also know there's interest from other teams. And I don't want Liverpool to get into a bidding war with Arsenal or whoever. I think Liverpool at the moment look for one of two things. Players to commit, so saying, I want to come to the club, I want to be part of this project, and then they look to bid. And they look to not get into, do we need this guy or not? That I think most of the time Liverpool will be similar to City, similar to Arsenal. We don't want to get into this, you're going to get played off. Because actually what they realise is Arsenal, Liverpool, and City all don't benefit from bidding against each other. We can all gazump each other's bids, we can all push those things higher, we can all make it more difficult. But ultimately, I think a lot of these teams have gone from being hyper-competitive to wanting, and they're all still very competitive, but wanting committed players. And if Semenyo has really nailed his colours to the flag or to the mast, like a lot of people are saying he has, that's good for us. And what will be interesting is to see where Semenyo sees himself in this Liverpool plan. I think a lot of people are being sold on where they see themselves in the Liverpool plan. How long he will give the club to cement him into those places, because his status will be obviously raised in terms of profile and those kind of things if he goes to Liverpool. Just purely, even if it's not through, he's already in the Premier League, it's just through playing in the Champions League, just through being more of at a global profile, even though Bournemouth are a very good side. And, what is his idea? Because, I'm not saying that I think Liverpool are not getting committed players, but I can always see, would Isak move if Real Madrid came in? Would Ekitike move if PSG or Bayern or someone else came in? What would Wirtz do if things don't go well after one season at Liverpool? Is he pushing to move away, or is he sticking with the vision? What would Semenyo do when he comes in? I want to see what the grit and the personality and the charisma and the chemistry of these players is, and how Liverpool are building that now. I think they do very extensive character profiles, and Semenyo really seems to fit that leader, performer type profile because of what he's done at Bournemouth. But what is it that is going to make us A-list? Because it has to be A-list at Liverpool. For me, it seems fairly evident that Liverpool are in the race. For me, it seems fairly evident that there is an interest from the player as well, just from the rumours that we've heard. But it's also interesting because it seems as if Liverpool are only looking for guys who are committed to Liverpool. So do you think he's already committed? Do you think we're on something here? What do you think he has? I think he had something on the left wing. I think he also had something on the right, but I also think he's complementary to Ekitike and to Isak because it pushes those guys more central and a little bit deeper and allows them to attack from there. He can rotate in with them, play off them, do all these kind of things that Liverpool want. And a genuine question, What does it mean for the likes of Cody Gakpo? What does it mean for the likes of Rio and Gamoa? Because that's where I think Semenyo is going to sit. What does it mean for Kirkes? Kirkes Semenyo? Is that a combination we've seen before? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll be back with a tactical profile of all of the people that are rumoured to be coming into the club at the moment. And I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love.